Hello there. Today I watched the film Pain Hustlers and now I want to tell you about it. It's a drama about a woman called Liza Drake and her role in a billion-dollar operation selling pain medication. The screenplay was written by Wells Tower and is based on a book by Evan Hughes. The film was directed by David Yates and stars Emily Blunt as Liza Drake, Chris Evans as Pete Brenner, and Andy Garcia as Dr. Neil. Pain Hustlers tells the tale of a pharmaceutical company's rise and fall. The story is told from the perspective of Liza Drake, one of its executives who helped turn the company's fortunes around and set it on the path to its explosive end. Liza Drake is a single mother working on an independent startup when she suddenly loses the roof over her head. She takes on odd jobs to try and make ends meet, but when she ends up staring down a stripper pole, she decides to take a different risk instead. She takes a job from Pete, who she met in a strip club. Liza has the gift of gab and can convince anyone of anything. She uses her ability to push the company's product and together with Pete steps over more than a few legal lines. Emily Blunt's Liza Drake is a fast-thinking woman who speaks even faster. She always knows what to say to get what she wants. She starts off with good intentions and is slowly drawn down the road to hell by them. Chris Evans plays Pete Brenner, a sleazy sales rep who draws Liza in and gives her a chance. He shows her a lot of support throughout her journey, but also shows off a similar personality. His character ends up being a mirror to hers. Andy Garcia plays their boss, Dr. Neil. He isn't much of a character, only appearing in small spades. When he does appear, it's clear he's the head honcho, and that nothing is as it seems. The film spends most of its time telling the personal story of Liza Drake and explaining how she became the kind of person she is today. We learn about her daughter's illness and her situation with her mother and sibling, and then we watch her deal with the ethical ramifications of what she is doing. In the background, we learn the story of the pharmaceutical company and how it operated, its drugs' benefits and side effects, and the stories of some of the key players in the company. Pete Brenner, Dr. Neil, and a few other executives. The visual journey involves watching Liza's life unfold, seeing how she managed to sell the products to different doctors, stray further from her original goals, and see what caused her to change her mind. There are a lot of cutaways and montages that help explain all the different pharmaceutical aspects and the market elements. They also show how the pharmaceutical reps wooed the different doctors. The story also cuts to interviews that happen with the different people involved. The soundtrack uses a club mix of original songs and a healthy dosage of instrumentals to fill out the background. There are a lot of rap and hip-hop songs in here with the occasional R&B. Okay, now that we've defined the movie, let's talk about what I liked. The story is well explained and is logically consistent. By the end of the film, I knew exactly what happened, how it happened, and why it happened. It taught me a lot about the kinds of things that pharmaceutical companies are doing to push their drugs, and it does a good job of humanizing the people involved in the industry so you can understand their motivations. The general cast does a fantastic job of selling the emotions of the story. The supporting cast makes you feel bad for the victims of the drug. The doctors and the pharmaceutical reps are all a bit desperate, and you can see how they'd be drawn in by the money. And the leads did a wonderful job of selling the main story. Emily Blunt puts on a powerful display and creates a nuanced character for you to enjoy. She is drawn to the money and power, and she doesn't really hide that fact. You can see the hunger in her eyes as she's convincing people. She also has a softer side that reacts to all of the pain she causes. Her heart is torn out by the victim's story, and she expresses that guilt and sadness in a raw way. Blunt's performance is incredibly moving. Chris Evans as Pete Brenner is a dirtbag. The first time you see him, he's trying to bribe a doctor in the strip club. It would be easy to dismiss him, but he's also the first one to see potential in Liza and offer her a job. Over the course of the film, you see a little bit of what makes him tick, and Evans plays out some great emotional moments. My favorite was when he angrily walked away from Liza, cursing her out. Andy Garcia doesn't get much time in the film, but he plays a good snake. He's always finding the perfect way to convince people to do what he wants, but he's never willing to give up any power or profit in his quest. Garcia's performance should give anyone the creeps, and give them a good target to hate. The soundtrack does a wonderful job of being entertaining and bringing out a good deal of emotion from the story. The club songs are catchy and fun to listen to while also bringing a good bit of atmosphere to the company and the types of parties they put on. The background instrumentals bring out a ton of emotion from the story and do a lot of heavy lifting when it comes to supporting the actors' performances. They can make you feel sad about anything, and will often use it to make you feel a certain type of way about how the drug companies operate. Alright, let's move on to the negatives. I struggled to get through the film because they kept cutting away from the emotional story to explain things. At the same time, they didn't do a good job of keeping the victims of the drug front and center. It was easy to forget about them, and that took a lot of the importance out of the explanations. They also over-explained some things. We didn't need graphic cutaways to explain what's essentially a brain tumor in her kid's head. It felt a little insulting to have absolutely everything spelled out in writing twice. It also felt like they spent too long setting up the story, and then lost all the momentum they had built up before the big finish. I had forgotten about half of the pieces by the time the movie started wrapping up. The visual journey is also a mess. The camera shakes the entire time and it overuses cutaways and montages. But it also has a few gem-like scenes in it. The good moments all feature Emily Blunt and Chris Evans, and they're good because of the actors' performances. The film has all kinds of cool locations and sets, but does nothing with them but parties and conversations. There's very little movement outside of the camera operator's hand, and the journey is kind of bland. Overall, Pain Hustlers has good and bad in it. It's got good performances and lots of fun and moving music, but the visual journey isn't well done, and the story is mind-numbingly boring. It just tries too hard to explain everything, and cuts away from the good parts too often. It's also not an original film style. It's very similar to Wolf of Wall Street in execution, and the story is basically just another thank you for smoking. For a rating, I'd give this film a 6 out of 10. Remember, these are just my thoughts on the film. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Bye-bye.